I'm 85 years old. Most mornings now I wake up already tired, and lately there's a heaviness that sits on my chest before my feet even touch the floor. It's not pain. It's the weight of knowing there are things I'll never get back, no matter how clearly I can see them now. I'm not telling this story to make sense of my life. I'm past that. I'm telling it because I don't have much time left, and because pretending I did everything right has started to feel like another lie I don't want to carry with me. I live alone now. The house is quiet in a way that still surprises me even after all these years. The clock in the kitchen ticks loud enough that I can hear it from my chair. Sometimes I turn on the radio just so there's a human voice in the room, even if it isn't talking to me. I've outlived most of the people who knew the earlier versions of me. That's a strange thing, to be the last witness to your own life. When you're young, you think time is something you have. When you're old, you realize time was something that was happening to you the whole time, whether you noticed or not. I notice it now. I notice it when I look at my hands and don't recognize them as the same ones that once lifted my children into the air. I notice it when I try to remember the sound of my wife's laugh and have to work harder than I should. I used to believe I was doing the right things. That's important to say. I wasn't careless. I wasn't cruel. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I was doing what made sense at the time. I grew up believing that a good life was built slowly, through responsibility. You showed up. You worked hard. You didn't complain. You did what needed to be done, especially when you didn't feel like it. I carried that belief with me into adulthood like a badge. In my 20s, I was already serious. I got a steady job earlier than most of my friends. Nothing glamorous. A desk, a tie, a paycheck that came every 2 weeks whether I liked the work or not. I told myself that was stability, and at the time, it felt like it. I married young. She was warm in a way I wasn't. She laughed easily. She liked people. I liked plans. We balanced each other, or at least that's what I told myself. We rented a small place with thin walls. You could hear the neighbors argue through the kitchen. We didn't have much, but we talked a lot back then, long conversations that didn't need a point. I didn't realize how rare that kind of time was. When our first child was born, something shifted in me. Not fear, determination. I became focused, narrow. Everything started to feel urgent, even when it wasn't. I worked more hours. I took on extra responsibilities. I stayed late, not because anyone asked me to, but because it felt like proof that I was being a good husband, a good father. At least, that's how I explained it to myself. I missed dinners here and there. I missed bedtime more often than I like to admit. I told myself there would be other nights, other weekends, other chances. There always seemed to be something more pressing just ahead. I remember one evening clearly. My daughter must have been 6 or 7. She had made something at school, a crooked little craft, all glue and bright paper. She held it out to me when I came home. I barely looked at it. I said something like, "That's nice, sweetheart," and set it on the counter because my mind was already somewhere else. I needed to shower. I needed to prepare for a meeting. I needed quiet. She didn't say anything. She just nodded and walked away. At the time, it meant nothing to me. Now it comes back to me at odd hours, uninvited. That's how most of it happened. Not with shouting or big mistakes, with small moments passed over because I assumed they would repeat themselves. They didn't. As the years went on, my routines hardened. Work, home, sleep, repeat. I told myself this was adulthood, that everyone lived this way, that this was the cost of building something solid. I was promoted. People respected me. They came to me with problems. I liked being needed. I liked being reliable. What I didn't like, though I wouldn't have said it out loud, was how much effort it took to be present at home. Presence requires attention, and attention felt expensive. So I postponed it. My wife noticed before I did. She would comment, gently at first, ask if I could come home earlier, ask if we could take a trip, even a short one. I would agree in theory and delay in practice. After this quarter, once things settle down, when the kids are older. Those phrases followed me for decades. I wasn't unkind to her. I just wasn't there in the way she needed. I thought providing was enough. I thought consistency could replace closeness. It can't. By the time I realized something was off, it had already been off for years. Conversations became shorter, practical. We talked about schedules, bills, responsibilities. We stopped talking about ourselves. I didn't notice when that happened. I only noticed later, when I tried to remember when we last sat together without an agenda. The kids grew. I saw it happen, but I didn't feel it happening. Growth is quiet that way. One day you're lifting them, the next day they don't need you to. They learned not to wait for me. I attended the important events, graduations, ceremonies, the big things that get written down. But I missed the smaller moments, the ones that actually shape a relationship. I told myself those things didn't matter as much. I was wrong. The cost didn't arrive all at once. It came slowly, like water seeping into a foundation. You don't notice until something cracks. The turning point wasn't dramatic. It was a phone call. My wife had been feeling tired for a while. We both ignored it. Tired was normal. Life was tiring. Then suddenly, it wasn't normal anymore. I sat in a hospital room holding her hand, listening to machines that sounded far too calm for what they were measuring. The doctor spoke carefully, choosing words that softened nothing. Time collapsed. In those weeks, I saw my life differently. Not in flashes, but in long, uncomfortable stretches. I saw all the evenings I had traded for work, all the conversations I had rushed through, all the times I had assumed there would be later. Later never came. She didn't say she blamed me. She didn't need to. She said she wished we had gone to the coast that one summer, the one I postponed because of work. That hurt more than any accusation could have. When she died, the house felt enormous, not because it was big, but because there was nothing left to fill it. The kids came, of course. They helped. They meant well. But they had lives. They had schedules. I recognized that language. I had spoken it fluently once. After the funeral, things quieted down too much. Grief didn't arrive as constant pain. It arrived as absence, as reaching for something and remembering there was nothing to reach for anymore. I retired not long after. People congratulated me, told me I'd earned my rest. Rest didn't feel the way I expected. Without work, I had time, too much of it, and for the first time, nowhere to hide from it. That's when the memories got louder. Not the successes, not the promotions or awards, the moments I missed. I tried to reconnect with my children, now grown. We spoke, we were polite, loving even. But there was a distance that no amount of good intentions could fully close. Relationships are built in real time. You can't reconstruct them later from memory. I don't blame them. I understand now how patterns form, how children adapt, how they stop expecting what never arrives. That understanding doesn't erase the ache. Now, At 85, my days are simple. I wake up, I eat, I sit by the window. Sometimes neighbors wave, sometimes they don't. I go through old boxes more often than I should. Photos, letters, things I kept without realizing why. I look at faces frozen in moments I didn't know were important. I don't wish my life had been easier. I wish I had been braver with my attention. I wish I had understood that presence isn't something you offer later when things calm down. It's something you choose while things are still messy. If you're listening to this, I'm not asking you to change your life. I wouldn't even know how to tell you to do that. Every life is complicated in its own way. I only know this: the things you keep postponing because you assume time will wait, those are the things that matter most. Time doesn't announce when it's running out. It just leaves. I don't have many years left. I feel that clearly now. There's a calm that comes with that knowledge, and sadness. Both can exist together. I've made peace with some things. Others I simply carry. If this story stays with you, even quietly, that's enough. If it reminds you of someone you meant to call or a moment you almost rushed past, then maybe this wasn't wasted. As for me, I'll finish my days as honestly as I can, sitting with what is, remembering what was, letting go of what never came. That's all I have left to do.